Nokia dominated 40% of phones, then vanished. Before the collapse, it wasn't just a company. It was seen as an unstoppable force, a symbol of Finnish engineering excellence worldwide. Annual revenue crossed the $100 billion mark, a figure few tech companies had ever reached. It signaled absolute market control. More than 4 out of every 10 mobile phones sold carried the Nokia name. Dominance was not just strong, it was historic. From Tokyo to Nairobi, Nokia phones were everywhere. They were reliable, iconic, and trusted by billions across continents. Owning a Nokia wasn't just about communication. It was a statement. The brand meant durability, innovation, and national pride. Nokia was synonymous with quality. Its phones survived drops, extreme weather, and years of use. Trust was built on real durability. For Finland, Nokia was more than a company. It represented national achievement on the global stage, a source of deep collective pride. At its height, Nokia shaped how the world communicated. Its decisions moved markets. Its vision defined the future of mobile tech. Leadership believed the formula was unbreakable. Hardware strength and brand loyalty seemed enough to withstand any challenge. Beneath the surface of success, quiet warnings emerged. Internal teams saw change coming, but the message struggled to rise. Engineers and researchers quietly experimented with touchscreens and new interfaces. They foresaw a shift beyond voice and text. Nokia stood at the summit, unmatched in scale and reputation. Yet the seeds of its decline had already been planted in silence. Years before the iPhone, Nokia's own researchers saw touchscreens coming. They modeled a future where apps, not hardware, ruled mobile. In 2004, a confidential memo landed on executives' desks. It warned, "Paradigm shift to app-centric devices is inevitable." Leadership filed it away. Despite clear data, senior leaders dismissed the touchscreen threat. Symbian and keyboards felt safe. Change meant risking quarterly profits. Profitable feature phone lines blinded leaders to disruption. Investing in touchscreens meant sacrificing margins they relied on for bonuses. Nokia's engineers begged for resources to build a modern OS. They demonstrated working touchscreen prototypes. Management called them distractions. Every year delay gave Apple and Android time to build ecosystems. Nokia's hardware focus became a trap as software defined value. Decades of market dominance bred overconfidence. Leaders believed brand loyalty would outlast any technological shift. It was a fatal assumption. Year after year, touchscreen proposals were voted down, not for lack of data, but because admitting error threatened executive credibility. As Nokia debated internally, Apple locked in suppliers, developers, and patents. The iPhone launch wasn't surprise. It was inevitability meeting preparation. By 2006, the window to lead had closed. Nokia still sold millions, but the profit pool was shifting to software and services they ignored. Promotions went to those who protected legacy businesses. Engineers who warned of disruption were sidelined or left for more agile rivals. Nokia didn't fail from lack of talent or ideas. It failed because success bred blindness to the very disruption that would erase its dominance. This is just the beginning. Subscribe to see more amazing content. Fire. Nokia made a calculated strategic decision to aggressively double down on their existing Symbian operating system and feature phone market share. This move aimed to secure immediate revenue streams, prioritizing short-term financial stability above all long-term technological innovation goals. The organization consciously chose to invest heavily in proven hardware components, specifically robust physical keyboards for their devices. This hardware focus deliberately bypassed the nascent software ecosystem development that would define future mobile computing platforms. Financial allocations were consistently skewed towards achieving immediate, visible short-term profit margins for shareholders and executives. This approach meant that critical, long-term platform development was consistently relegated to secondary status and ignored by senior leadership. The management team prioritized quick wins, leading to the systematic dismissal of internal warnings about impending technological disruption. The focus remained intensely fixed on maximizing the current revenue stream rather than preparing for a fundamentally different mobile paradigm. The reliance on feature phones and established Symbian systems created an artificial sense of stability within the global mobile market. This defensive posture created a fatal vulnerability when truly disruptive software innovations began to emerge rapidly in the following years. The investment strategy failed to allocate sufficient capital towards creating proprietary, adaptable software ecosystems for future growth. Instead, resources were channeled into incremental hardware improvements rather than foundational, scalable software architecture development. This misalignment meant Nokia was structurally incapable of pivoting quickly when the true mobile revolution demanded a complete software overhaul. The short-term margin obsession ultimately blinded the company to the long-term necessity of building truly future-proof software platforms. The strategic error was not in the technology itself, but in failing to understand that software defined the future of mobile connectivity and user experience. This fundamental miscalculation set the stage for a catastrophic failure when true platform competition arrived with radically new operating systems. The arrival of the original iPhone fundamentally shattered Nokia's perceived technological invincibility in the global mobile landscape. Within a remarkably short period, the market share held by Nokia began to rapidly erode under the weight of this new mobile paradigm. Nokia's once unshakable cultural perception as the undisputed leader in mobile technology began to crumble under this intense competitive pressure. The shift was not merely quantitative. It represented a profound change in how consumers valued mobile experience and innovation. Nokia struggled to adapt its established manufacturing processes to accommodate this entirely new, software-driven direction effectively. Internal research teams had long predicted this impending disruption, warning of a complete paradigm shift toward application-centric devices. Despite these clear internal signals, senior leadership consistently dismissed the warnings as mere speculative concerns about future trends. The inertia of the massive organization proved far more powerful than any single internal prediction regarding the impending technological upheaval. Nokia's strategic response involved doubling down intensely on its existing Symbian operating system and feature phone hardware offerings. This decision prioritized short-term financial margins over the necessary, long-term development of truly disruptive software ecosystems. The company allocated resources primarily to incremental hardware improvements rather than investing in revolutionary software platforms. Attempts to pivot toward the MeeGo operating system and the emerging Windows Phone ecosystem ultimately proved insufficient for market recovery. The financial repercussions of these failed strategic attempts led to significant write-downs and painful organizational restructuring measures. Massive layoffs swept through the workforce, signaling a brutal realization that the old business model was fundamentally obsolete and unsustainable. Eventually, the handset division was sold off to Microsoft, marking the definitive end of Nokia's reign in the mobile device market. Nokia's engineers saw the future. They warned leadership about touchscreen disruption years before iPhone launched. Internal memos from 2004 described app-centric devices replacing feature phones. Leadership dismissed them as irrelevant. Nokia doubled down on Symbian and hardware keyboards. They optimized existing profits instead of building future platforms. Financial reports showed strong margins. Meanwhile, market share silently eroded as consumers shifted to touchscreen ecosystems. When iPhone arrived in 2007, Nokia had no competitive response. Their ecosystem was years behind Apple's App Store. Nokia's desperate MeeGo and Windows Phone partnerships came too late. Developers and consumers had already chosen iOS and Android. Nokia took billions in write-downs. Thousands of engineers lost jobs. The handset division was eventually sold to Microsoft. Nokia's downfall teaches that contrarian internal signals are early warnings. Ignoring them risks existential threats to market leadership. Leaders must optimize today's business while investing in tomorrow's platforms. Nokia optimized Symbian but neglected touchscreen OS development. Allocate capital using a venture portfolio approach. Core business improvements, adjacent innovations, and long-term disruptive bets. 60 to 70% of innovation capital should fund core business optimization and incremental improvements. This maintains current competitiveness and cash flow. 20 to 25% explores adjacent markets and technologies. This builds capabilities near the core while testing new customer needs and business models. 5 to 10% places small bets on truly disruptive technologies. Most will fail, but the winners can transform the company's future like iPhone did. The $100 billion mistake wasn't bad luck. It was a failure to heed internal warnings, balance innovation, and fund the future properly. Hi everyone. Quick reminder. Subscribe for high-quality daily content. Sparkle's next episode. A plot twist you won't expect. Subscribe now. Face screaming in fear.